Amazing. Good. Well, welcome to a new harmony lesson of the 2021. Well, today we're going to see seventh chords. Yeah. How to prepare them, how to resolve them, which is the movement of the roots that we're going to use, and as well inversions. Yes. All of that, and then at the end of the lesson you're going to have an assignment, which is the most fun part, at least for me. Well, okay, so seventh chord, this is page 81 of the harmony book, yes, of the Arnold Schonberg. Okay, so a seventh chord consists of 3/3 built up over a fundamental note. That is, a fundamental or root. The third, the fifth, and the seventh. The seventh is a dissonance, and thus belongs to those phenomena produced by the desire to bring into use the more remote overtones. Remember that Schonberg relates everything to the overtones series, or the overtones theory. Yeah. If you have the overtones, they say, well, we're going to discuss that later. I was going to ask which overtone would be the seventh. Start.
6. Oh, seventh. Sixth harmonic. Six. Yes.
No, much.
The minor or the major seventh.
There you go. Very good. Exactly.
I said
It
one
depends.
seventh.
It depends. Yes, it is a major seventh. It's much farther. Yes, and this minor seventh is the one that you said. Yes. Anyway, they're remote overtones. Yeah. I mentioned already, in my discussion of the seventh degree, one way these may have come into common usage about the use of seventh degree. First of all, as a passing note, a voice that would otherwise leave a third, for example, connects the two outside tones of this interval by giving the intervening dissonant parts. So if you a third, you connect smoothly. It gives them fleetingly, only in passing, as it were, without emphasis, and a weak beat, in order not to draw the attention at the beginning. A different use of the dissonance, probably later form, introduces with emphasis in the strong beat, and that will have made a chord. This is the theory that he has, yeah? Which is most probably, if you see the evolution of harmony, actually it is. Yeah. Before we carry on with the seventh chord, because he mentions the seventh degree, which are the rules for the seventh degree? Let me see if anyone remembers. Good.
Say it one more time, first. With the seventh degree, you said with the seventh of a chord.
No. The rules of the seventh degree, the use of the seventh degree, how to prepare it, and which note,
Prepare the
solution, which chord.
So it's a diminished chord. But
Yes.
prepare the diminished fifth and then resolve it down, stepwise down. Yes.
So the fifth of that chord, it resolves as step one down to which chord?
Tonic. Or the third.
The third. Exactly. Yes. Third degree. And then what happens with that dissonant interval? It's diminished. It is.
We need to prepare it.
Yes, exactly. We need to prepare it with which chords? You have two possibilities.
The second or the fourth.
The second and the fourth. Exactly. Very good. Yes. Do you remember the if you don't remember, it's fine, because actually it's not that important. But if you prepare with the wait, Georgios, wait a second. I know you know it. asking idiots. If you have the preparation of the second degree, do you know the name? Do you remember the name of the interval between root and the note that is prepared?
Yes, by the third or by the octave?
Exactly, very good. The third and the
Okay.
octave. But which is each case?
Ah. So with the second, it's by the third,
Yes,
and
exactly.
with the fourth, it's by the octave.
Very good, amazing. Perfect, very good. So we have a, yeah? Do you want to add something, Gorgios?
Well, if the second is in first inversion, but it will be octave again.
It will be octave again, yes. I mean, we assume that as a rule, we manage with position exactly. But yes, in fact, if you have in first inversion, you can do double the third. That's what, yeah. As a general rule. Very good. So we move on. Any questions, Laura, about the seventh degree? No? Okay. If not, you can review the topic. The value of the dissonance we learn from the satisfaction obtained from the resolution. This satisfaction is produced by a strong root movement in conjunction with a complementary movement of the dissonance. So we have two things. We have how it's resolved, how it's prepared, but we always have the movement of the roots. Yes? Now, I ask, anybody knows what is the movement of the roots? Anyone define that?
The movement of the root.
The movement of the roots. Yes. For example, if you move, yeah, from the second degree to the fourth degree to the sixth degree, yeah, from the second degree to the fourth degree to the sixth degree of the scale. Which movement of the roots, which interval from root to root are you having? Yes, here. A third, exactly. Yeah, an ascending third. Yeah. Now, if the chord is in inversion or not, you don't care. I mean, the movement of the root. No? I mean, you should care. But the motion, yes, the root motion is by ascending thirds. For example, Laura, if you have a progression, yes, in a major scale, like you have the tonic, yeah, the first degree, and you have the fourth degree, yeah, and you have the seventh degree, and you have the third degree. So the tonic, the fourth degree, the seventh degree, the third degree. Which movement of the root do you have?
A four. Is it like a perfect four?
It can be perfect fourth, ascending, or can be ascending. Can be ascending or
Descending. Sixth descending.
exactly, a fifth descending.
Fifth descending.
Yes. Not. I didn't say perfect because it's a little exception. From the fourth degree in a major scale to the seventh degree, we have a diminished or augmented fourth. Yes. Okay. There you go. Fantastic. This is the movement of the roots. Yes. If you have 1, 4, 6, 4, yeah, 7, 6, and 3, it doesn't matter. Yeah. The movement of the roots are the same. Yes, are by descending fifths or ascending fourths. Yeah. But so the satisfaction is produced by the strong root movement in conjunction with the complementary movement of the dissonance. So you have two areas, two aspects. How are we going to deal with the root movement, root motion, and how are we going to deal with the voices? Yeah. For the time being, we shall use this method in resolving seventh chords because it directly embodies the simplest implications of our basic assumptions. But there are, of course, other forms of dissonance resolution. They will be discussed later when we advance from the simpler, more natural functions of the fundamental tone to the more complex, the more artificial. Yes, for now, all the voices are going to be treated by step or dissonances were going to be treated. Yes, then in later chapters, in chapter 4, in chapter, sorry, 6, yeah, you will see that you have it. For the moment, we shall work with this, the simplest form of dissonance treatment, and shall use in the resolution of the seventh chord the same root movement that we chose for the seventh degree triad. The root will leap a fourth upward. That is going to be the root motion. So the root will leap a fourth upward. Here the descending dissonance becomes the third of the new chord, whereas in the chord that resolved the seventh degree triad, it became the octave. So here the resolution of the seventh will be the third of the new chord. Yes, in the seventh, the seventh resolved to the third degree, and it was always the root. Here now, it's going to be the third. Now we're going to see some examples. Yeah, we prepare the seventh chord the same way we prepare the triad on the seventh. The tone to be prepared should be a consonance in the preceding chord. So the tone to be prepared, which is the seventh, has to be a consonance in the preceding chord, in the previous chord. Thus, if we want to prepare the seventh chord on the first degree, let's say C major, the seventh of this chord, the B, C major, could in the preceding chord be either the root octave of the triad of the seventh, B as well, the fifth of the triad of the third, the fifth of E minor, or the third of that on the fifth, the B as well is the third, yes, of the G major. So, let me see if I can share the screen with you.
Nice.
Yes, you can ask whatever you want.
What does he mean? What did he say? Consonant. On
The
previous-
interval. Because in the seventh degree is dissonant. I imagine you're thinking about that.
Yes.
Yeah, he said, oh, it's a dissonant chord. Yes, but the B, with B, yes, the B is not
The B to the root. The dissonant.
Exactly.
The root.
It's not dissonant.
Yeah?
Yeah?
You can prepare the fifth of the seventh. If we're going.
Can we see the same example?
Yes.
Maybe that will clarify.
That's the only exception. Everything could be, except from the diminished fifth. That's the only we have, no?
In the major scale, yes. Of course, yes. Let me go to. Okay. Now we prepare the seventh for the preparation. Yes, we prepare the seventh chord the same way we prepared the triad on the seventh. The tone to be prepared should be a consonance in the preceding chord. Thus, if we want to prepare the seventh chord of the first degree, the seventh of this chord, the B, could in the preceding chord be either the root octave, yes, of the triad of the seventh, the fifth of the triad of the third, or the third of that on the fifth. Now, here are then, three possible kinds of preparation, which we shall examine in turn. First, we choose the preparation by the third, because its root makes the upward leap of a fourth. Remember that we just said that it's the same root relationship. Yes? Remember, you have the seventh degree, the B, then resolve to the E, is a fourth upward. Yeah? Concerning preparation and resolution, there is nothing further to say here that was not already said in the connection with the seventh degree. So we have, for example, you have the B, the case of the B, as a seventh in the tonic. Now we have the seventh there, yes, meaning that the chord has a seventh. Just saying that in Schonberg, he doesn't specify if the seventh is major or the seventh is minor. And usually in let's say jazz notation, yeah, you have the M8J major seventh, or you just have seven, yeah. Well, in this case, no. I mean, he assumes that you know that on the first degree you will have a major seventh, yeah. Okay, so you have the seventh, which is the B, yes, comes from the third of the dominant. So you have the dominant chord G, G, D, and B. That is the prepared note, and then that prepared note is resolving down to the A, which is the third of the chord that is a fourth up, root motion wise, which is the fourth. Yeah. Another example, for example, the second degree. Yeah. The second degree it has a minor seventh. Yes, it's a minor chord with a minor seventh. Now, what's the deal with the second degree? It's prepared, yes, here you have the seventh of that chord, yes, it's prepared by the third of the previous chord, the preceding chord, because the C is the third of the sixth A minor, and resolves downward to the third of the fifth, yes, the third of the chord of the fifth, which is incidentally a fourth up from the D. And we can go on.
We haven't seen
You're
hidden fifth yet, yeah?
Sorry?
We have not seen hidden fifth yet, right?
No, but it will be a problem with the hidden fifth. You're going the right track. Because these exceptions here is in order to prevent hidden fifths. Yes. Why is that? I mean, Georgios, why you already know that it will be a problem with hidden fifths? Let me see.
Because first of all, I can see them,
Yeah, there you go.
and then that's usually what happens. I don't know. They had the parallel movement.
The parallel movement, yes, but also when you have a seventh chord, you have two fifths juxtaposed. Say that this is a fifth and this is a fifth. You have boom, yeah, if you have C, E, G, B, C to G, E to B. So you will have to have, I mean, you're bound to happen, it's bound to happen, yes. You have more fifths to control, and maybe you're going to have a voicing problem, yes. Do you see, Iris and Laura, do you see that my explanation that if you have C, E, and G, you have a bigger problem with the fifths, let's say, because you have more fifths to control. C to G, and then if you start from E to B, more fifths, yes. Yeah, so it's more problematic, let's say, yeah. Now, anyone remembers what a hidden fifth is, and which are the rules? Laura. If you don't remember it, it's because we didn't see it with you, so don't worry.
I don't remember.
Don't worry. But actually, you didn't see it. You started the lesson much later. Yes. But just in case. Iris, do you remember?
Yes, I don't know if I'm going to explain fine, but there is a fifth, like the movement of the fifth, but not in the, not like you can see it on the first time. They're hidden because they're not like in the same voices. Oh my God, it's a mess. My brain is not. But if I see them, I think I could.
Can you see any hidden fifth here in this example?
Mm, on the first one or any of them?
Any.
Ah,
I mean,
well, not like at this first time.
Giorgio, can you see a hidden fifth?
The arrow you have put is a hidden fifth because from the base.
Yes, it was a huge arrow there.
I see now.
I put it there.
Wow. Okay, that makes sense.
And why is a hidden fifth? Which voices from which chord? Can you write it down? Can you write it on the screen, Giorgio?
Can by annotate, yes.
Annotate, exactly.
Well, bass and alto, sorry. So this is a third, yes, whatever, but this is a fifth. And they move by skip, sorry. The problem. So that's the hidden fifth.
It's a big problem.
Similar motion skip to a fifth.
Do you see it is?
Yes,
Yeah?
yes.
So we have a problem. But we have a chord there in the middle, yes, and you will see why, yes. Let me see. Okay, so because I will prepare the same way. Okay, so the seventh chords were prepared and resolved here in the first examples by means of and into triads in root position. Inversions will follow later. Yeah. In resolution, it is usually necessary if a complete chord is desired to take the third of the seventh chord in example 31a, the E, okay, that one, down a third to the fifth, yes, here, C, of the resolving chord rather than up to the root, which is the first option there, the F, yeah, which would actually be the nearer, and also because E to F, you know, easily would be kind of the leading tone to F is the natural way. This point is obvious, however, in light of the fourth question, what is missing? Now, it says special care must always be devoted to any examples in which the seventh degree appears, since it contains additions. Yeah, those is 31C. 31C. Yeah, the F must descend to E. That is necessary. That is a rule. Yes, because we have the F is a dissonance. Yes, and as such, yeah, the same resolution applies. Yeah.
Now, if the third was on the soprano,
If the
because
third
now
was in the soprano, the third of what?
The hidden fifth is okay because it's in the alto. Not okay, but we can say it's okay. But if it was on the soprano, we wouldn't be able to go down.
No, that's why it's important to manage the voices. Yes. The voice leading now becomes extremely important. Yes, extremely. Because as for the bass, that you have more options. As for now you have these preparations, yes, in, in the sevenths, yes, it becomes extremely important to be careful and to plan ahead and to see the possibilities, yes. Because if you're not, you're going to end up in a muddle, really, yeah. As it's not very academic, but it's true. So yes, it would be, the alto is one of the reasons why, yes. And let me see if I can, the third, I don't want to take you from the eyes from the examples, that's why I have the book here, yeah. Yeah, well, I prefer you to see the examples here, and I talk about them because each one has a specific thing to deal with, yeah. Thus, in 31C, okay, 31C, you're looking at it, the F must descend to E, yeah, there you go. Whereby it becomes impossible to get a complete seventh chord on the third. If you see the parentheses, now, Georgios, I cannot stop thinking about the word, by the way. Parentheses. Parentheses. On the third, the seventh and the roots may, of course, not be left out since they form the characteristic interval. So basically, what will happen from now is that you have to decide. Yes, when you had triads, you had options. Now you don't have many options. Sometimes you're going to have to omit some notes. So the root cannot be omitted. And the seventh is the characteristic, so it cannot be omitted. So the remaining two are the fifth and the third. I would prefer the fifth, to be honest, because the fifth is not very important. Yeah, the third gives a mode. Yes, if chord is major minor, but sometimes, according to the voice leading, we have to omit it. Like in this case, because we have the G, which is the third, and then the B, because it voice leading wise, yes, it's much better to have a BBA than BGA in the tempo. So, on the other hand, the third and the fifth can be omitted since here neither is particularly characteristic, yes, although I have my preference to the fifth, but well, in this case, we can. Where one of the two characteristic, then the other would be more appropriately omitted. For example, if the fifth were diminished or the third major, as in A minor, in 31D, here, the seventh chord on the fourth degree, the E, cannot be complete because the seventh degree, the resolving chord, requires preparation of its F. So you cannot put a seventh chord there. Yeah, it's logical after all. Okay, when you have this chapter has a lot of examples. We're not going to see them all. Yes, but if you have to go from the fourth to the seventh, and then you know that the seventh needs a preparation. Yeah. Well, you cannot come from the seventh. Yes, because here you will need this F to be here, already prepared. Just logical. Yeah. Therefore, the F of the fourth must be doubled and the fifth or the third omitted. Yeah. So, in a nutshell, you're going to decide, yes, what is the most important thing now? Let's see. I mean, like priorities. Yeah. One, that we prefer the root motion of the fourth upward. Yeah. Two, that the seventh, no matter what, has to be prepared. Yes, if we put a seventh on a chord, that seventh has to be prepared and resolved. How? By step. Step down. How is going to be prepared? The previous note has to be a consonant. Can be the root, the third, or the fifth. In this case, we dealt with the third, preparation of the third. So the consonant is the third. And then if we have to decide which voice to omit, you cannot you cannot omit the root and you cannot omit the seventh because both of those notes are the ones that are characteristic. So you would take the main feature, leaving as if the third or the fifth. Yeah. And please, yes, no hidden octaves. Yes, except like in the case of Yuri, he said, well, in the case that he had the bass of the altos or inner voices, that would be okay. Yes, because they don't draw attention to them. Yeah. So far so good.
So
Yes.
even in the case of the F, we wouldn't resolve the leading note.
No.
Crazy.
And that is he will at some point he carries on talking about that, but it's not illogical in a way. Because you're not treating the first degree with the seventh as a dominant. So if this
No,
was a
not that one. The F, not
oh right, the F of the seventh. No,
no F 31F example.
31F example. This one.
Yes.
Oh, that you have the F not going to the
No, the B not going to the C.
the B not going to the C. Yes, exactly.
So we do
Yes,
that.
sir.
We cannot
Now,
double, triple the root on the tonic.
yes, sir. The 31F. In example 31F, let's talk about it. The B in the tenor, yes. Let me see. Let me go to read this one so you can see. In example 31F, the B in the tenor should go to G. According to what was said above. Let's see. Now that is contrary to the rule that requires the B to go to C. He knows it. The B, the seventh tone of the scale, is called the leading tone, or precisely the ascending leading tone. To take it up to the eighth tone conforms to the model given by the ascending major scale. It will have to obey this melodic tendency, however, the leading tone tendency only when it actually participates in a melodic situation. And then only when it is the third of the fifth degree and the following chord is the tone. The seventh tone has the leading tone characteristic with respect to melody, only in the ascending major scale. In the descending scale, the B goes easily to A. Otherwise, resolution of the seventh chord on the seventh of the first degree, for example, would be impossible. The melodic necessity for taking B to a C can arise at the moment only in the top voice. Only in the top voice because in general terms, the top voice carries the melody. That's why this is the melodic component. Yeah. But here too, it can often be disregarded above all and always when other requirements have priority. It is most of all in the cadence, when the B, as in the top voice, that it should go generally to C rather than downwards. So also, he's making the difference between the leading tone as the proper leading tone within the cadence, in the top voice, and within the context of a perfect authentic cadence, or movements of voices. Yes, within, let's say, for example, that, well, I think he's implying it, or he's, yeah, in a way, like a subtext, but you know very well, yes, how the function of the chord, the hierarchy, he talks about hierarchy here, yes, cadences. But let's say that you are in the middle of a phrase, yes, kind of a sequential to arrive at a certain point, but you're not in a cadence. You would not need the B to go to the to the C. It's not not chiseling stone. Yes, because you will be in the middle of the phrase. So if the voice leading doesn't need to do that, you won't do it. Yeah. And also because, and again, yes, the leading, the top voice has the responsibility, or the function, yes, of the melodic, yeah, function. So here is when the rule starts to accommodate, yeah, to necessity, as he says, yes, all the time, yeah. Okay, so this is the pupil, so you, should now practice preparing and resolving seventh chords on all degrees, which is here. Your assignment, by the way. The pupil should now practice preparing and resolving seventh chords on all degrees. All degrees. Okay? At first, in little phrases made up of the three chords involved in various keys. In various keys. We had to discuss how many. Then he should go on, as therefore, to the invention of little 8 or 12 chord phrases. Actually, you're going to skip that and you're going to 8 or 12. Straightforward. Yeah? In each of which, along with all that was practiced earlier, his task is to prepare a predetermined seventh chord. Planning the root progressions should proceed as before, always according to the table in page 39. I don't know if you remember at the beginning, page, you don't have to remember the page, of course, but how he connected the chords. And then I asked you to start saying, okay, if I have, for example, two notes in common or one note in common, where should I go? Look, you know what? Let's go to the page. I think 39, 39. There you go. Do you remember this chart? If you have has common the degree 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 has common page 39 has common notes with 1 has with the 3, with the 4, with the 5, with the 6. Yes. Why? The let's say the C major has an E. The third has an E. The C major has a C, which is in common with the fourth degree of the F. The C major has a G, in common with the root of the G major. The C major has a C, well, again, that is a third of the 6. Yes, A minor. And then you go and you go and you go and you go. So this chart, yes, becomes extremely useful, yeah. And this exercise that I ask you to do is like the table exercise in Scaramuzza technique. The same thing, yeah. This is the Schonberg table, okay. You have to have it in your hand. You have to have every single degree, and then with which notes do you have, with which notes we can connect. Because voice leading Y, it's going to be it's pure gold. Yeah. Any doubts about how this chart works? Laura? Yeah. For example, Laura, one very quickly. If you have a fifth degree, if you have C major, the fifth degree, which is the fifth degree?
It's G, B, D.
Yeah. So which is the relationship with one?
G.
And two? Which note you have in the fifth degree GBD that exists on the
D. Sorry.
The D. There you go. Good. Good. It takes a while. It's a chart. Look, it's very tricky. I mean, it can mislead you a lot because you have a small chart, but then when you start, and we're talking about C major here, yeah. I didn't say G flat major, I don't know, or things like that. With the third, what do you have?
The G.
Yes. With the seventh?
B.
Good. Yeah. So I know it's like a maze, yes, or not a maze, but near, yeah. But that has to be in your head every all the time. Same years and yours every. Because you see how all the chords interconnect. Yeah, because voicely, when you have to prepare with one, yes, and you go with the other chord, you know exactly which notes are interconnected with which notes. It's not just about a chord in isolation. We never think about chords in isolation, ever. No. Yes. All the notes are interrelated. Yes, and they have hierarchies. When they belong to another chord, they behave differently. Yes, a note in one chord and its root behaves in a way, and then it belongs to another chord as a fifth, and it will behave another way. Yeah? Good. It will have another job, let's say. Yeah. Well, now, I have to go back. Assignment. Yes, your assignment. So, first of all, you're going to pick, it can be any key, major key, yeah, major key. And you're going to pick 3 major keys. I will let you choose, doesn't matter, yeah, I will let you. And then you're going to, the assignment is between 8 bars and 12 each, yeah, good. You may decide, for example, the use of the 7th chord of the first in the first phrase, since the first degree is the opening and closing chord, and should appear both times in the position, it will be difficult here to avoid monotony. The 7th chord of the seventh chord of tonic should not be introduced too soon after the opening chord, rather only after at least 3 or 4 chords have intervened. Thus, perhaps 1, 6, 2, 5, then the 7th chord of the first, resolution on the 4th. Remember, which is the root motion of the resolution?
4th up.
4th up, there you go. And finally, the cadence 2, 5, 1, example 32. This example, of course, is of course rather bad because of the repetition 2, 5, 1. For example, you can have this. You will have the chord, yeah. You start on the C, then to the A. Then use inversions. Try to use inversions, please. And then to the 5th. Now we hold the 7th. Look at kind of he even used a climax in the progression. 4, then you have 2, and then you have 5. Now, what he says about the repetition of the sequences, repetition of the certain root motions, yes, please try to avoid it, because actually that's the dullness. The people should notice how here, through the use of the sixth chord of the second, this one, the phrase goes from closed position, in which it began, into open position. In this matter also, he should aim for variety. So, all the topics, okay, everything connected. Yeah. The plan, the aim here, yes, the harmony, is to get from simplicity to complexity. Yes, not because you're learning the seventh chords now, you're going to forget about the voice leading or not being in control of the texture. Yes, so I want to see a climax, melodic, so highest note, golden ratio, golden number at some point. But if you do it, not random, I will know, not random, climax. Yes, it can be at the beginning, it can be at the end, but stop it. So high pitch, the climax, open position, closed position, not random, not random. If the climax matches the open position, closed position, yes, usually what will happen is that the climax will match the open position, yes, but as well, I don't want random exercises of notes going. So melodic bass, we have already discussed that before. The bass should be melodic, open position, closed position, controlled manner, a climax in soprano, yes, and then the management of the voices and some type of control, and write it down, yes. What I'm going to ask you to do, yeah, and then we don't have to share this more. 1 second, there you go. So is to write, to analyze, let's say, your works. So you have your 8 to 12 bars, yes, in 3 different keys, yes. It can be C major, okay, it's fine, don't worry. Any key, okay, you want. But write on Sibelius or MuseScore, yes. Georgios, you have MuseScore. It is also. Laura, what do you have?
I use musical as well.
MuseScore. Okay, so 3 MuseScore. Fantastic. So use the text tool, yes, and then write tonic prolongational, what do you do, cadential, sequential, where is the seventh chord, yes, which is the voice that's doing that, where's the climax, yeah, open position, closed position, right, everything, yes, everything in the same exercise, yes, and also it will give you some control, yes, it won't be random, yes. The melodic bass, you don't have to write it, yes, but try to always be extremely careful between the bass notes and the soprano. Try to move them in contrary motion as much as you can, yes. Try to control that. Try to be very independent, yes. So why? Because as Schonberg said, wrote at some point in his composition book, yes, you have to be careful with your voice lead, you have to be careful with your bass and soprano, and be careful with your progressions, yes. Fantastic, yeah. So